Welcome to the Intercut podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he knows damage, it's Arturo Zurita.
Thank you, Zach. And the future, because this year, out of all of them, we've always been talking about TV movies becoming one. Everyone's watching their TV and their movies off their TV, so it really has become one to a lot of people. And look, hey, in this list, we're going to have so many movie stars that are now TV stars. Whether it's a miniseries, whether it's a movies, they practically become one. But, of course, we had to get the best of the best to come in.
It's all the same. Everybody's just stars now.
Literally, at this point. So, we had to bring one of our own all the way from London, then to New York, then to LA, back home to Canada.
The world traveler herself. She took the Red Cross babysitter training class twice. It's Amanda the Jedi. Thanks for joining us, Amanda.
Thanks as always for having me.
Yeah.
Of course.
It's been a little too long. We did just do an hour and a half long podcast, like right before we hit record on this one. But it's been too long aside from that. And thankfully, we're going to see a lot of each other, I think, in the next month or so.
Let's hope.
And maybe beyond that. We will figure it out. We will get into all of that. But first, let's talk about the best movies, best TV. We already
see what's the difference.
Best TV of 2021. It is the end of the year. It's actually 2022 when you're watching this, although we're still stuck in 2021, and we are still stuck talking about the TV we could not stop watching. In trying to fit everything in, there are some things that got left out, though. So let's start off with, what are the TV shows that you're a bit upset about not getting the chance to catch? Amanda, what did you miss that you would have liked?
I don't know if I would know for sure. I missed scenes from a marriage, so I hear that's good. Didn't get a chance to catch up on that. You guys have been talking a lot about Station 11. Haven't had a chance to go through that.
Right now.
We'll talk about it a little bit.
I'm sure there's something else. I feel like Ted Lasso. Didn't watch the new season of Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
So I'm,
Delightful.
there's a lot of little things I just haven't caught up on, so it's so hard to keep up with TV because like every streaming service has like 10 worth watching a year. It's basically getting back to that though, like
have to.
Yeah.
That would be one of the reasons why I'm missing one of my favorite ones, or the one that I have most anticipated, and that's because I don't have AMC Plus at the moment, and you know how they like to dupe you on Prime being like, it's on Prime through the AMC channel. That'd be Northwater for me. That's probably my one that I definitely wanted to sit down and enjoy, but I needed it to wrap up, and then I just didn't get the time to do it. And honestly, there's always like one show a year. Last year was worth it for was it Gangs? The one that
Gangs of London.
The director from Raid did. This year would have been Northwater. I'm sorry, AMC, but I'm not gonna give you my money for one show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Northwater is another one that I missed. I was curious about that one. I've heard some really good things. I've also heard really good things about We Are Lady Parts on Peacock.
Another one.
That's a show that I just didn't get the time to catch that one. Art told me good things about Midnight Mass. Told me good things about Lupin.
Decent.
Told me good things about Physical as well. Mm-hmm. All three of those shows are ones that I had on my list at some point but did not find the time for. I caught the pilot of Lupin though, and that one was really good. But yeah, it's TV, you have to, it's not like a movie where you have like just one sit down with it. You got to dedicate maybe a few different nights to it, or a week or so to it. It's hard to get through all that TV, though there was a lot of really good TV this year. I feel like with all the delays to production that happened once the COVID lockdown started in 2020, it gave all these shows time to ruminate, time to reassess, and 2021 just became packed. Plus, with new streamers like Paramount Plus and Apple, even Apple TV Plus being relatively new, Hulu trying to expand, Netflix always doing its thing. There's always more TV than ever, but maybe now more than ever, there's just too much TV to wrap your arms around it fully.
You got TV series on Shudder, Showtime, Starz, HBO, Prime, Disney, Hulu, Netflix, and that doesn't even stop. Tubi originals now. Yellowstone's still playing over on basic cable or whatever it's on, so it's never going to end.
Yeah. We'll see which series end up, or which channels rather, or streamers end up with the most shows on our list. I'll keep track as we go along. But we want to talk about some of the shows that maybe are best of the year material, but they haven't wrapped up that first season yet, so we don't quite feel ready to throw them on the list. Maybe they'll end up higher once they get through all their episodes. Maybe they'll not really be worthy of the top 10 of the year once they wrap up. But they are shows that have really riveted us, at least so far, and I've been really excited to bring this one up, man. Art, please tell me what you think about Yellowjackets on Showtime.
I have been loving this show. I think it's a fantastic show. This would be in my top 10, but this is one where it's definitely depending on the story, where it goes, how it wraps things up. But I have been loving just this thriller that's done in two perspectives of the survivors of this crash that involves a soccer team seeing their past selves and then seeing their future selves. Which ones are there? Which ones are not? What are the intricacies between the relationships? What are they hiding, not just from the public, but what are they hiding from each other? I think it is beautifully paced, and I've been enjoying every second of it. And I've been watching on a weekly basis. To me, I don't know, that to me is a thumbs up. If I'm watching a show on a weekly basis, what better endorsement can I give it?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Amanda, are you watching that one too?
Yeah, I started it right after you guys. So many people recommended it when I was asking like what their favorite shows of the year were, so I was surprised this one's not actually done because people were just like so many people. It's probably because it's still going, so you got like the recency bias. But like, this is like last year my mom wanted to watch The Wild, so I watched that with her, and this year I'm watching Yellowjackets with her, and this is like the more like intense, like Pretty Little Liars done right version of The Wilds, I guess. Like, it's a bit also very different at the same time, but it's like really good, really great performances. I think they did a really good job picking like the younger and older versions of characters. Like they really line up really well.
If it's the casting or the costuming, but they are so perfect matched to their adult counterparts.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, I mean it's in some ways obviously has a lot of the Lost influence, but I think in some ways it's a little bit less obvious too. Art, you mentioned how it kind of has that going back and forward in time and the past affecting the future kind of stuff. And there is like a little bit of a sci-fi thing that's developing so far on the show. So I think there are a lot of those Lost, those echoes of a show like Lost. I don't know if you did the same thing I did, but like influenced by the whole Oceanic 6 thing, I'm thinking, okay, they haven't shown that girl's adult counter.
I've been doing that. I'm like,
they haven't shown that
bitch dead.
Yeah, is she dead? Are they going to introduce somebody in episode 9?
Exactly.
We'll see. It's a show that's exciting. Part of what's so exciting about it is the feeling that it could go anywhere next, and that's part of why I don't want to put it on the list quite yet. But it's totally worthy. Another show that I think would definitely make my list, it might even be near the top of my list once I get to watch all of it, is Station 11 on HBO Max. A show that went through some pandemic delays and has its weird overlap with COVID, although it's one of those shows that, again, went into production before and feels a whole lot different afterward. This one comes with a few episodes directed by Hiro Murai, who may be the most talented director working in television right now between this and his work on Atlanta. It's also show run by a guy named Patrick Somerville, who has done a lot of really good work. He's was on The Leftovers with Damon Lindelof. He show ran Maniac on Netflix, and then more recently Made for Love, also on HBO Max, which I like quite a bit. Did not make my best of the 2021 list, but it was an honorable mention. Yeah, and then I think there's just, it's one of those shows where like the cast just feels so perfect. Like I'm gonna know all of these actors after this. Not just Mackenzie Davis, who it's self-parody at this point to talk about how much I love Mackenzie Davis, but that very first episode with Himesh Patel is unreal and makes me just in love with him as an actor. Both the first and third episodes are maybe two of the best like single episodes of television I feel like I've seen all year. Art, I know you caught some of it, maybe not as much as I have. I've seen the 5 that are out. What do you think of Station 11 so far?
I've only seen the first episode. Again, I agree with you. Really good performances. I love that it's shot in Chicago. That's how I immediately realized, I was like, they shot this beforehand because some of those buildings are no longer there after the pandemic. Damn. I don't know where it goes, but I know you were telling me that it kind of like, you're not just flashing forward into the future of whatever event ends up occurring. But there's like
it's jumping around a little
there's
bit.
a bunch of characters that I thought were supposed to be in it that have not appeared yet, who appear on the poster. So I don't know too much on it, but if it's a Hero Mirai thing, I am all in for it. And I know it wraps up in the beginning of next year, if I'm not mistaken. So we should have all wrapped up by Sundance.
Yeah, that I will say. Just another thing in that show's favor is it's a show where I feel immediately present in it. I feel like it does a really good job of communicating the humanity and the situation of the characters and how they're dealing with that moment. So I'm so immediately emotionally involved with it. I really like this show. I'm excited to talk about it with you more once it does wrap up. But we should talk a little bit about this year's lists. I don't know if you guys felt any themes. I asked this when we did the movies, and that feels like it's a little bit more clear. But TV's all over the place. Did you go more comedy heavy? Did you go more drama heavy? What ultimately made up your top 10s? Amanda, what do you think? What's the theme of your list this year?
I don't know if there's a theme. I would say comedy seems to be a little bit more present, at least to some extent, even if it's like...
You needed to laugh.
Yeah, I did. Even if some of it's kind of like, oh, fuck, we're fucked type laughing. But like, I think I got a pretty good mix. I tried to do a mix. I always, with TV, I try to go like off the rails from you guys. So like, I've got stuff that's like good for like teenagers, good for adults. Like we got a nice little blend here. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What about you, Art?
Even split, bro. 5 comedies, 5 dramas. One of the dramas, kind of a comedy. But one of the dramas, dark, I think it sucks out the comedy, bro. So it's a pretty even split. Pretty even split.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so in a little bit, we will get into those top 10 lists. But first, make sure you're subscribed to the Intercut podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio podcast available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. We are at IntercutPod, that's at IntercutPod, and that's short for podcast. Also, we are Intercut Pod on Patreon, where you can support the show for as little as $1 per month. And also, be sure to leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. When you do, it makes me happier than when good shows get picked up for more seasons. That's one thing that I'll give Amazon credit for. I was thinking about this recently. Amazon, amongst all the streamers, seems to be the one that is happiest to entertain like a season 6 of Bosch or something like that.
Too much, bro.
It's not Netflix where it's 3 and done. They will let a show ride out.
You don't hear them canceling stuff too early. If anything, you're just like, that's still going?
Yeah, exactly.
They're doing a Bosch spin-off?
Oh my goodness. So good for them.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into our top 10 lists. Art, why don't you kick us off with your number 10?
This was one that I was, it's kind of tied, so I'm going to have to save one of these as an honorable mention later on, because maybe it's the recency bias, maybe it's just that it's culminating in its final season, which would be Insecure Season 5. I have been a fan of this show since it began. This is one that I tune in on a weekly basis. In fact, out of a lot of the screeners that we get, some I let sit there. I made sure I was on top of it for this one because I did not want Twitter spoiling it for me. And while it is an ending that had a lot of people split, I was rooting for the ending that they were going for. Insecure, if you don't know, run by Issa Rae. It's the story of this woman who's, trying to make it in this organization she's trying to build, being able to host block parties and whatnot, but it's also obviously all of her friendship drama, her relationship drama, and it's culminated into 5 seasons that I think are going to be fun to revisit. These are characters that I enjoyed watching. It's a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different artists that they bring in as well. What I really liked about this final season wasn't just, the peak of what they're hitting, but I liked seeing Natasha Rothwell, who plays Kelly in the show, who I think is one of the funniest ones. She actually directed an episode, and there's a lot of extra improv that's done in that episode that created some of the lines that Alina and I have been quoting a lot. But overall, I would highly recommend for people to go check out Insecure. Again, but it's going to be split for a lot of people in the ending. I personally am not a big fan of those shows that kind of like How I Met Your Mother end up culminating years worth at the end in the final couple of episodes. You can't fight that, but it also kind of does a smart thing where it's kind of like it's using that narrative device to kind of show you what happens to the friendships along the way and the way that they meet. So I will give it that. But But yeah, definitely check out.
Yeah, sometimes you can't resist, but like, I think the creators really want to let you know everything's gonna be okay for the people you love so much.
It's just like in between, you're like, damn, this is a whole season. This is a couple episodes between here. But overall, Insecure, definitely put it on your radar if you've never caught up.
Yeah, cool that Issa was able to do that run and really stay on top of her game, and that show has like stayed beloved by its fan base. I'm a little bit behind on Insecure, but yeah, great show. Glad that you got to include it here. Amanda, what do you have at number 10?
This is one of those ones I don't even know if it should be on my top 10, but I'm gonna mention it because it was just like I had such a good time binging this show. I'm going Cruel Summer.
Right.
So I caught like they played like the first handful of episodes of this at South by Southwest this year. I noticed that Kevin Smith's daughter was in it, so I was like, sure, why not? It's just this like, again, kind of feels like a Pretty Little Liars type thing where it's like teenagers being like the fucking worst, but it's told in a really interesting way, and that it's like 3 years apart and you get different flashes from each 3 years. This girl goes missing, and the character that we were originally following, who's just this like super nerdy girl, essentially like takes over her life. She becomes the popular girl. She starts dating her boyfriend and just kind of like moves her way up this social ladder. And then it kind of seems that like, was she involved in it? Was she not involved in it? Like, what's going on? So it's got like, and then there's a big fun reveal type thing at the end. So there's like another season coming down the pipeline. So it's just one of those ones that like, it's fun, it's easy to watch, it's addictive, and I think they're doing something kind of interesting with it compared to a lot of those other teen dramas. So yeah, Cruel Summer. Yeah.
Awesome. Probably the only appearance we'll get from Freeform on this list.
It is
but I've heard
Freeform,
it's a really fun show.
Yeah, it really is. It's especially if you like kind of like any kind of like young adult or like teen coming of age stuff, like right up your alley.
Very cool. At number 10, I was kind of between a couple different shows, but I figure you guys have some of the ones that I wanted to mention covered, so I will put season 2 of Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet, the Rob McElhenney headed show for Apple TV Plus, maybe my favorite workplace sitcom right now. And I think I've talked about this before, but it's just such a rewarding format to kind of be in, to stay in a workplace and have these different characters, and week by week you get to see different matchings and different pair ups, and the way that this really gifted comedic actor can bounce off of that comedic actor. They got the casting really done right on this show. Everybody who's there brings a different type of pitch, and I think you just end up with all these really fun interactions between these really lovable characters. I've really enjoyed seeing them grow. I've really enjoyed seeing the comedy develop, and the story, the relationships sort of like ebb and flow. It's probably my favorite just like hangout comedy of the last year. So let's go with Mythic Quest, Raven's Banquet.
I gotta catch that.
It seems like it would be really up your alley. I'm surprised you haven't.
I know, it's Apple. I don't have Apple TV, so I've really got to go out of my way. So I should just get Apple TV.
All right, Art, let's go to your number 9.
It'd be Mythic Quest Season 2. Very good show. It's in the same position when I had it halfway through. I'm looking at the episodes from this season. I want to say Grouchy Quote would be... there's a specific episode in this one where they have to go and one of the interns is stuck with the main guy, and like they have this whole talk about like, well, you have to understand how difficult it is for women in the workforce to have an opportunity, and he's like, this is your opportunity, this is your elevator. You have episodes like that along with Breaking Bread, which was an incredible episode, and just the back and forth that he's having with his brother. I don't know the actor's name on top of my head. I'm gonna try to pull him up right here. He absolutely kills his performance because the brother comes in and he's supposed to play like, his name is Parvesh China. He plays Zach, Brad's brother, and he absolutely kills his performance because he's malicious, but you kind of fall for his damn charm. Please Sign Here was a fantastic episode, and yet none of those were the best one. Backstory, which looks back at the writers like coming up and how he became not just
the F. Murray Abraham
Yeah.
character, which they have what's his face, Big Head from Silicon Valley.
Which, come on. Yeah, no, that episode was fantastic because it takes it back not just to his history, but like what got him to be there. And I thought it was a very well directed episode there. That also kind of uses. I want to say there was another one that they had probably in season 1 that also kind of did that in terms of how Poppy and why am I blanking on the main guy's name from?
Rob McElhenney. I forget his character's name.
Because he says it weird. Ian? Because it's supposed to be Ian.
Yeah, Ian, yeah.
Ian. And, like, their relationship and how they got there alongside the previous couple who kind of also owned the building. I don't know. Overall, it's just a funny show. I love rewatching some of the bits. Sometimes this is the show that I'll put on in the background even though I've already seen it. It's like I don't have to pay too much attention to it because I've already seen the episode and I could just catch the funny bits. Fantastic show. Amanda, once you get Apple TV, if you're able to, this is going to be in your top 10.
Okay. I'm going to get it.
Yeah. it will be worth it just for this. I really think this is going to be a show that resonates.
Yeah,
okay.
Didn't want to believe the hype,
like,
but it's dope, dude.
Because I went on my way for Dickinson. Like, I can get Mythic Quest, which brings me to my number 9. Dickinson.
Yeah. It's the Apple TV Plus portion of the program.
That's where we're at right now. As I mentioned before, it was on my list last year with season 1. It is a show that is set during the life of Emily Dickinson, but they give it a very interesting modern twist. Emily Dickinson is played by Haley Steinfeld, for all of you Stein stans out there, of which I'm sure there's many. Yeah, there's a lot. But it's got a lot of like really interesting interpretations of what her poetry would have been and how it would have related to her life. But then they'll just say things as if it's like modern day, but then it's still all set and dressed and choreographed like it's like that era. I don't know if season 2 is as good as season 1, but I think by the end it really kind of like comes back around. So I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. And it's just still a delight to watch.
So I'm keeping track so far, and Apple TV Plus is getting out to an early lead.
Good for them.
So, Tim Cook is gonna have more accolades for his collection, I guess at this point. All right, Dickinson. Yeah, I'm excited to actually catch up with that because I've only seen I think the first episode from the first season, but I thought it was really interesting and a exciting like interpretation of all that.
Yeah.
I just haven't had the time to invest into that one specifically.
Fair.
So. Cool. I'm glad that you gave it a mention here. My number 9 is one that I have a feeling is going to come up later, so I'll just mention it. The White Lotus on HBO. We'll talk about that at some point, I think. Art, what's your number 8?
Add one to HBO, bro. Another one to HBO, technically. Scenes from a Marriage. Ingmar Bergman's, the adaptation of his original by Hawkeye Levy. He has done like a bunch of stuff over on Showtime. He created The Affair. It was his adaptation of In Treatment that HBO took. I never was able to finish Our Boys, but that was another one that got a lot of hype that's over on HBO and absolutely killed it with this one. Jessica Chastain, Oscar Isaac, they have not been together, I believe, since A Most Violent Year. To me, that is top tier performances from them both, and they killed it in this one. It is maybe one of those where you don't want to watch it ever again, maybe even dread watching it the first time, but I think it is essential viewing for both of these actors. They absolutely demolish their roles, and it gets into a lot of the intricacies of the ups and downs of what happens within a relationship. And really, for Oscar Isaac, man, you have to watch it for Oscar Isaac. So Scenes from a Marriage, 5 episodes over on HBO.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one that I want to catch up with. Just the power of those two actors seems like it would be so much.
It's great.
And they are so good together in A Most Violent Year. I think they have known each other since their Juilliard days. So
really? That explains a lot then. If anything ever happens to the boy, Jessica Chastain will be there defending him on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure. Strongly worded letter. Amanda, what is your number 8?
This might be a recency bias, but I just had such a blast with it, even though it's very simple. And I don't know, Hawkeye, I'm going for it. I really enjoyed it. I don't know what it is. Again, another Haley Steinfeld one, but I don't know. It was very Christmassy. It got me into the Christmas vibes. The last episode would just have moments where I'd be like, being like, oh, or like laughing out loud at something. I really liked Yelena being back and like the dynamic between her character and Haley Steinfeld's character, Kate Bishop. I don't know. It was just fun. It was really nice. Kate Bishop. It was fun. It was simple. It's not doing anything massive in the grand scheme of things, but I walked away feeling better about it than I did Spider-Man, so.
I liked Hawkeye. Hawkeye was very fun. To me, it's like, yes, it's very simple, but they do a lot of cool things that remind you, like, yo, the MCU can be fun. It could still have its emotional arcs to it, but unlike like a lot of the other shows that try to do a lot, be it, you know, narratively speaking, and all the politics of the Winter or the Soldier one with Falcon, or even with all the complexities of WandaVision, like this one just knew, hey, this is a dude who's been through it all. Should have gotten his movie. He's got his TV show, and this is how you pass the baton, in my opinion, while still honoring the legacy of one of the OG Avengers. And I think Haley does a great job in it.
Me too.
I feel you're gonna finish the trifecta for Haley.
Shit, what's her third?
You'll see if you mention it.
Fuck, I'm not gonna, I don't think. Oh, wait. Oh, maybe. Anyways, keep going.
Maybe.
I tapped out on the Disney Plus Marvel shows
that's not
at some
surprising.
point, just because there's... Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of them this
year. And
year.
that's not your shit, so like...
Yeah, but I think Art was also trying to get me to watch this one too.
It was my most anticipated, and I think you would at least enjoy this one a bit more than the other stuff, dude.
Yeah, so I'll have to catch up with it. I was giving Loki another shot.
Stop. I'm gonna pitch it to you right now. There is a scene that is Children of Men, because it's a long take in a car chase, and I'm like, oh, it's Children of Men. They asked the directors that. The directors go, well, we were actually inspired by waves. What's up?
All right. I'll give Hawkeye a shot. I could give Hawkeye a shot.
Still thinking about it.
My number 8 is a comedy that I think really took a step up in its second season, and that is The Other Two, the HBO Max show. The very funny show about a pair of siblings trying to make it in the entertainment industry who often play second fiddle to the other members of their family, whether it's their younger brother or their newly minted famous talk show mom. I think there's a lot of shows that try to send up the entertainment industry, and I think what's really good about The Other Two is that they focus on the like humiliating aspects of it, the indignities that some people put themselves through for that shot at fame, and you know, they get a lot of the appeal and also the like humiliating nature of trying to go into that type of narcissistic pursuit, and they're not afraid to kind of make themselves look silly and kind of like bad people in different points of the show. There is like this heart to the program that I really love. Like, I think there's this one episode in which the Drew Tarver character and his boyfriend are trying to show a couple from out of town that it's okay to be gay in New York, and meanwhile they have no idea that this couple is like way more open than they are, and just the pathos that it lands is one of these like. It's so like that this silly show that has hilarious jokes in it can land in this actually touching place. It shows how they've really, I think, one up themselves in a lot of ways with the second season. It's the kind of like they've figured out what this show is that makes me think they can sustain several years of this. So if you're just looking for like a show with big laughs, a really well written comedy with good characters, stick with The Other Two, and I think it will win you over at some point. It's very, very delightful.
It was a big honorable mention for me. Honestly, if I could sneak it in, I would sneak it in. To me, the best episodes from season 2 would have been the church one. I think that's season 2. And then the 30 under 30 episode I thought was great. Definitely check it out. That's a show where I love that they're assholes and they don't sugarcoat it. You know, it's a great show. HBO.
That is on HBO Max.
Okay. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So The Other Two is my number 8. Let's go to Art's number 7.
HBO again. Mare of Easttown, a show where I still disagree with Mare of Easttown. She should, I'm gonna spoil it, but all that time, Mare, and it could have been something else. I really loved her performance in this. I think it is a very tight story. I can't remember. This isn't based off anything, right? Because I believe it was just...
No.
I don't think so.
No. So just overall,
Yeah.
I think all of the performances all around, this will be the first of the Jean Smart performances that I'll be giving accolades to. But this is one that you need to go in fresh, because some of the people who I know were watching it were kind of spoiled on some of the stuff that happens, and I was like, nah, this is a show that does a really good job at like keeping you at the edge of your seat in terms of like the crime thriller aspect of trying to figure out what's going on in the small town. And I know she came out and said that she was very surprised about how people were like seeing her appearance in the role, and I was like, that's kind of like what y'all promoted the most, and you did a great job at it, because this really gets Pennsylvania, dude. This really gets Pennsylvania down. And yeah, it's a fantastic show. Mare of Easttown.
I think that Kate Winslet in this role is the TV performance of the year. Like, she is just so transcendent, and she does so much. You talk about the twists and turns of the case, and I think so much of it is solidified by how she is handling it, reacting to it, processing it. There's a moment in that final episode when she finally figures it all out, and it's not the thing she wants to happen, and you see all of that in one look. And it's the kind of thing that there's maybe like 10 actors on the planet who could do that. And they got one of them. So I left this as my 11th because I figured somebody would mention it. It's great. It anything could fight for a spot, but
I see what you mean. I kept trying to shoosh it out, and it wouldn't leave. You know, so I have to go to that.
It's my 5th.
Nice. Okay,
cool.
And all the same things. I think my biggest issue is that, like, kind of like when it's all said and done, it is a little bit more basic than it kind of seems like it's going to be in a lot of ways, but it really is just driven by those performances, especially Kate's performance. I think once it kind of gets down into its conclusion, it might lose a little bit of steam until it gets into like the actual conclusion. Yeah, really, really great all around. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Glad we all liked Mare of Easttown. That's Art's number 7. Amanda, let's get your number 7.
Betty.
Okay, I'm glad one of us mentioned it.
I forgot. I keep forgetting that second season was this year. I was positive it was last year.
It's great.
I don't know, Betty.
They came out close.
It is. So that's another HBO show. Really, it's based off of Skate Kitchen, the movie. And it's just like, it's like a group of girl skaters and their lives and like the different things that they do and just trying to like stake out their place in a world that's like really dominated by dudes. And it's just the different things different characters go through, which ones are good, which ones are kind of shitty at times. It's really good. It's just a very lived in show. I definitely recommend it, even if you have no interest in skateboarding or anything like that. It's just really great performances, and it's probably one of the more unique shows that you could catch out with like an all-female cast like this. So yeah, definitely worth it. Yeah.
One of the best hangs.
That's the thing. It's
like
the hangs. Yeah.
Yeah, like the plots are never really that involved, and it's not like, what's going to happen on next week's episode, but it's just a really fun time with a group of characters who feel like they'd hang out together too. I think they canceled that one, unfortunately, and it's such a shame because I feel
it got confirmed for 3rd season. God damn.
It's just a show that would be, I would love to see the way that it grows and takes different forms, because they also did a really cool thing this year where the Kurt character ended up on crutches for a while, and that sort of affected how her character was. It's such a cool show. Shouts to Crystal Moselle. I'm really curious to see whatever she does next.
Yeah, same.
All right, my number 7, gonna give a little shout out to Hulu and Only Murders in the Building, a show that I thought was really delightful, not in small part thanks to its excellent cast. Steve Martin, just a national treasure. How can you not find him just charming and hilarious? Martin Short also just so funny in any part that he gets a chance to like really lean in and do some crazy line deliveries. I think they're both so good. Selena Gomez, I think, also holds her own with them and is able to provide an interesting kind of counterbalance to this group dynamic. I'm there really to be entertained by the comedy, but I found myself kind of pulled in by this murder mystery too. I think it's just satisfying enough that you kind of you're motivated to click that next episode, and you really want to find out what happens next. I just found myself really, really enjoying my time with it. It's the breeziest half hour that I got every half hour that I watched it, that week. I really enjoyed it. I am very excited that it's not just going to be a one and done, and they're coming back for season 2 too. So yeah, Only Murders in the Building, I got at number 7. I think we're at Art's number 6.
It's Cooking with Selena Gomez. No, I'm just kidding, bro. I have How To with John Wilson over on HBO.
Yes.
Love the first season. One of my most highly recommended ones. And this season, if you don't know, pretty much John Wilson, documentarian, goes about, really, he is talking about his life, but he compares it with all of the footage he's able to capture in New York City. Bunch of B-roll, because I guess it's legal in New York City. I will say this season does kind of
As long as you don't have a tripod.
Really? Okay.
That's the law in New York.
I'm going to get my negative first, and then I'm going to talk about nothing but praise. I do feel this season is kind of like folding in on the facade a little bit, just in the terms of like, one, you're led to believe he captures it all, but I kind of feel like the credits spoil it and let you know that he's got a whole team that goes and captures it. Obviously, I expect it to, but there's kind of like a novelty that wears off with it. Like, is like a YouTuber in a set that's meant to look like their living room, but it's not really their living room type thing.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, this season probably has How to Find a Spot, I think, maybe in my top 3 John Wilson episodes.
It's an all-timer.
But then he'll do things in random episodes like how to throw your batteries. And you think he's talking about batteries, and then randomly starts talking about an aspect of the human condition, I guess, if you want to call that, and what we do to certain people. I know a lot of people were really big fans of the most recent one about dreams, which was fantastic. I don't know. I would highly recommend season 1. I think season 2 is still coming out with some of the the wine one has one of the craziest endings that you just don't expect to happen. And he's doing a really good thing in being able to bring back elements of a previous episode into a new one, be it just a really quick gag, or I personally feel like you're going to have characters who are going to return later on and probably return a favor or be something bigger. So How to with John Wilson.
It's like the thing with the landlady where it's like you're building the John Wilson universe.
Yes,
almost.
yes, exactly.
Yeah. I actually have John Wilson, the second season, at my number 5. I think it's such a delightful, unique show. It feels rare to have something that totally feels like nobody has ever done something quite like it before for TV. And he's just so impressive in the way he's able to marry that narration with these clips in such funny ways, subversive ways. But I think what ultimately is the show's secret weapon is how quickly and deftly they're able to shift from a hilarious profile of some eccentric weirdo into like a very emotional moment of like
Sneaks
vulnerability and connection.
Yeah.
You're never, I don't think I'm ever really ready for it to happen. And then it does. And it's like, it's just very powerfully human and makes you feel like a deeper connection to our species.
Yes.
And then it goes back to being just silly and hilarious.
The Avatar bit in this last one was like,
yes,
uncalled for, bro.
It made me kind of excited for Avatar.
You think he's going to be
impressive.
making fun of these people who like gather to talk about Avatar, and then they hit you with this long take of a dude venting, and you're like, I almost wanted to learn Navi, bro. What the like what? It's crazy. Only John could do that.
Yeah. So shouts to How To with John Wilson. It's a very special show. I think we're at Amanda's number 6.
We are. What We Do in the Shadows, season 3.
Is it still as good?
This is one of my honorable mentions. Awesome.
I'm still just having a blast with this show. It's so fun. I'm just I love the movie. I've been a fan of like the first 2 seasons of the show. It's just good. If you're into that kind of comedy, that kind of like mockumentary, like a little slightly absurd, because it is literally just kind of like it's a documentary about like vampires and other supernatural creatures and stuff, and sometimes occasionally in random office settings and just different things like that. It's just it's just delightful, and every season it just still stays just as strong. It hasn't really faded out yet, in my opinion.
Nice.
It's one of those ones that I'll pop on and like rewatch while working on things, so it's fun. Yeah.
Decent.
Yeah. Does this have a case that they're the funniest cast on TV? I think like top to bottom,
I think
these
so.
are just they're so fucking funny. Like Matt Berry is it's like supernaturally funny. That dude's voice is just such a weapon.
Yeah, I would have to say so. I would just say, especially for like ensemble cast, like obviously you have a lot of like the sketch comedy type stuff where you have a lot of funny people, but this is just like an entire cast where like no one really feels like they're necessarily being overshadowed by other people. Like everybody gets their moments to shine. It's fun. Big fan. Yeah.
Very cool. What we do in the shadows. My number 6 is It's a Sin, the Channel 4 and HBO Max mini series. You know, it's a little bit of a hard sell, I think, in the quick description of it, because it's largely about the AIDS epidemic. And I think you hear mini series about the AIDS epidemic, and you get a picture in your head of something that's very powerful maybe, but also just like leans on the emotion and is maybe just more sad than you want to like willingly go into, right? Like that, it sounds like a hard ask. But what I want to say about It's a Sin is I think it's a show that's so full of life and so propulsive, so kind of winning in the moments where it's about what it's like to be a young person and finding like-minded young people, that I think it gives a show that should be very weighty a little bit of lightness.
Absolutely.
I think, it's so like it's so winning and beautiful for about like 40 minutes, and then it kind of hits you with some stuff in every episode, but it's enough, it's bright enough that I don't think it's a chore. I don't think it's homework to watch this. I think it's really valuable. It's got some excellent performances. I really, really loved Ali Alexander in the lead of the show. I hope more people catch up with it, because I feel like it's not shown up on enough top 10 lists, and it's a really stunning miniseries.
It's really good. I only left it off my list because I assumed you were actually going to talk about it, so it's in my honorable mentions. But I always just kind of feel like Rent walked, so It's a Sin could run, because I feel like it balances that better than Rent did.
Yeah.
That levity with like how serious the situation was. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like you kind of like almost are envious for a life that they could have had.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's beautiful. All right, so that is about our halfway point, but I do want to take a second to thank those wonderful Patreon patrons who are supporting the Intercut podcast. They are Jessica Connor, Tim Cademan, Garrett, Ewan, Tushar, and of course the producer level patron himself, Awkward. Thank you again for supporting this show, and a reminder that you too can become a member of the Intercuties at patreon.com/intercutpod, where you can sign up for patron benefits like early access to Intercut episode outlines, access to private channels on the Intercut Discord, and an invitation to our monthly patron Google meetings. Art, what's your favorite part of being in the Intercut patron gang? What do you think is like the best part of signing up to support the show?
Yelling about movies. Arguing.
Yeah.
Twitter discussions, they're not fun. You need to have that one-on-one with people. But the best part is that you're still cool at the end of it, because that's the worst part about a Twitter discussion is you're not fighting to have a discussion. Zach and I love to argue and disagree on stuff, but then at the end of the day, you go back to normal, and I think that's one of the best discussions that we're able to have when you're actually face-to-face, is to just go at each other, and then at the end of it know that we're here to talk about movies, because there's a bunch of people you could talk movies with out online, but it's not going to end well. I'll put it to you that way. So, yeah, I love how vigorous the discussions can get that we can disagree.
For as little as $1 a month, you can challenge us on our bad takes in a Google meeting.
Brave men. That's a $10 charge from me.
It's a good deal.
It's a very good deal.
All right, Art, get us back into the list with your number 5.
Sticking to HBO, Jean Smart killed it in the role that she deserved all the award praise. I'd say Hannah also deserves a bunch of the praise. This is from a team that worked a lot on Broad City. Hacks, absolutely fantastic. I love the story. I love the characters. I think it's hilarious. I love the look at comedy that it has. Obviously, it is very specific to female comedians, but just comedy as a whole, the art of it, of stand-up. I think it really gets into it, and it's just two fantastic performances between these characters, and being at completely different points of their lives and the way that they feed off of each other. I can't recommend it enough. This was in our halfway list, and it has remained at the top since. So only one other HBO show it beats this, which is insane to me. That would make it my second favorite HBO show of the year, and I'm looking forward to season 2.
Wow. Yeah, I decided to leave Hacks off of my list because I figured that you would get it.
Same.
First of all, I mean, I love Hacks. I'm not trying to argue that it doesn't deserve a place in the top 10. There's a lot of really good shows this year.
For
but
sure.
The thing also about Hacks is I'm so confident they're going to come back and kill that second season. Like, that second season's probably going to be like maybe even top 5 for me. So we'll see where that show goes. It is wonderful. I just love hanging out in that world with them.
Yeah.
And they've done such a good job of creating characters that you're already like heavily invested in, right? Like I already really, I'm excited for when they're gonna like bring in some of those side characters and develop a little bit more, because even just those little glimpses of them, you can tell they're already fully fleshed.
Yeah, like Toothpaste Guy. So good.
Exactly.
All right.
Okay. Amanda was
My 5 was
Mare of
my 5 is
Easttown.
Mare of Easttown. So don't really have anything to add. Don't want to say too much about it because if you haven't seen it, you should just go watch it.
Exactly.
Wawa.
And my number 5 was How To with John Wilson. So let's circle back to Art for your number 4.
Where y'all got Invincible?
3.
Then I'll wait.
I had Invincible at number 10 until I realized you were both going to have it, so I left it in the honorable mentions.
Okay, we'll talk about it when Amanda brings it up.
Cool. So my number 4
Right.
is White Lotus. Where does it fall for you, Zach?
I had it at number 9.
Oh yeah, you already
earlier,
had it.
So we can talk about it now.
Right.
Yeah.
What did I think you talked about at number 9? Either way, White Lotus, super good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's everybody sucks. It's very the music playing through it is just so tense as you're listening to it, as it's like weaving around, and I just like how it ends in a way that some people could be like, oh, you know, like good for him, but then at the end it's kind of like, nope, that's just another layer of rich people doing rich people things that only rich people can do in scenarios with people and their culture. Not saying I wouldn't also want to do that though, so you know, it's a struggle. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing that is really great about that show is that the characters are all kind of like, they do bad things, but I think they're not necessarily meant to be bad people. You know,
They're like
there's enough
caricatures
depth
of what
to them.
of like what they represent, basically.
Exactly. Like I think one of the things is Mike White isn't gonna do it as simplistic as being like, these guys are bad. It's like it's complicated, and these are the bad habits that they buy into that they're maybe not even aware of. I think it's a show that's a little more deeper than like you know, these are the villains and these are the good guys.
Oh yeah.
You know, I think there's something also about just the experience of watching that show. Like, it's something that I maybe underrated when I was watching it is the unanswered question of the who's in the casket at the beginning.
Yeah. Because it kind of sets it up at a point
just
where you think it could be one person, and then you're just constantly kind of like watching it go through until, yeah. And it's like, it's really not that important to what's actually happening, but it gives you this other lingering question that kind of involves you a little bit more in the show on a week-to-week basis. So I think there's just a lot of very smart TV writing there, and he's kind of found a really great idea. It's kind of like Knives Out, where it's just like, this is cool, let's just do this again, but mix up some of the players. We're getting a White Lotus season 2 supposedly soon too, so I'm going to be curious to see how he decides to revisit that. Oh, yeah.
Art, you were a little more mixed on White Lotus?
No, but I think it's fun. Definitely inspired by the people he hangs out with. That's what I would say. Definitely.
Definitely inspired by a lot of Twitter conversations.
And yeah, a lot of Twitter conversations, for sure.
Yeah.
But no, it's a pretty good show.
Yeah. All right, my number 4, I suspect, is going to be a little bit higher on Art's list. I have the Underground Railroad here. So let's go to Art's number 3.
Martin Scorsese directed 7 episodes, if you want to even call it directed. He hung out with his friend and put it up on Netflix. His friend Bean, Fran Lebowitz, and they just talk and talk and talk and pretend it's a city. I think it is one of the funniest. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's 3 hours long, right? That's practically a Martin Scorsese movie as well. And it's just them talking. Some are skits, like Spike Lee will come in to do like a pretend late night talk show host where they argue about sports. Spike was right, by the way, in that instance. And it's really cool just to see them go back and forth. They have this really cool miniature of New York that they walk around upon. And, you know, it's also like a really interesting look at New York City and all the changes that happen for someone who's been there for the longest time and has seen these changes come and go and laughs and scoffs at any, you know, new things that are going to be appearing. But it's also just great to see Marty just chuckle. Like, he chuckles. There are points where he gets caught so off guard and he's just like, you can't hear the person speaking because he's too busy laughing. He's cackling practically.
Yeah,
I love this show. It has remained in my top since then, and I would highly recommend it over on Netflix.
Very delightful show. Kind of weird to place it because it's also like not a narrative and not exactly a documentary either. It's a commentary show, but her commentary is so exciting and funny, and it's also just funny to get to see her hanging out with these other famous people we love. Yeah, that's, speaking of shows that are just good hangouts, that's a great hangout. Cool, so let's go to Amanda's number 3.
Invincible.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Big fan of the comic book, and the show did not disappoint. They made just the right amount of changes to kind of keep things engaged and kind of move them around in the right way. And then a couple of the changes just made things way more brutal. Like, one of the big concerns with something like this is that, like, it's not going to carry over that, like, sheer violence from the comic book. They're going to try to, like, tame it down. And they were like, no, let's just have homie hold somebody's head in a subway. Like, let's just go.
It's great.
It's great. Really great voice acting performances, like good use of music, just really, really solid look. And I know a lot of people were trying to compare it to The Boys, but I feel like it's very different to The Boys. The Boys is like what would happen if superheroes were in the real world, and like Invincible is just kind of like a more brutal Spider-Man story, honestly. Yeah.
Which do you prefer?
Depends on my mood. Depends what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? I would say Invincible is probably more solid from start to finish, but there's just moments in The Boys that just like hit the right way. Just things happen. Yeah, depends on my mood. How about you?
I think, well, you got 2 seasons for one, but right now, depending on how they do Invincible, I think I'm leaning a little bit more on Invincible. We had a big gripe at the beginning on the animation, and then I don't know, kind of just looked past that. It did not affect me at all. I think the voice acting is decent, and I just love the brutality of it that I think you can only do in something like this. It was fantastic. And I know they're working on a feature as well, so I'm really happy that they also did a series.
I keep thinking that they canceled. I keep thinking that they canceled the feature because like that was what it was supposed to be original. Then they went to the show, maybe because the show is so successful that they're like,
no reason to have 2 thing going on.
Yeah.
When have multiverses ever worked? Come on now. Invincible on Prime.
Yeah, that's a show that I'm excited to see it return and see them continue to just expand on all the really interesting ideas they threw in. I mean, they've hinted at a whole bunch of like ways for this to go.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you both know from reading the comics. There's a whole lot left on the bone.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a show that I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, several seasons of. I think they've already picked it up for 2 more at least. Yeah, I think we are at my number 3. Which is maybe the newest show. Actually, you put Hawkeye on there, so mine's a little less new than that. But it's also Disney Plus, and maybe it's not a show.
Turner and Hooch?
It's directed by Peter Jackson, who tends to do bigger things. But it's the 8 hours of the Beatles Get Back on Disney Plus. Sorry to be a boomer about this, but the Beatles are a very important rock. I'm not even like a Beatles guy. I think they're good and I do think they're important, but I just think there's something really cool about getting to be in the room with them and see things develop, see how it was like to work on things and to progress. And there's something about watching them play the same song 50 times that just gives you a new understanding of how they were able to write all these amazing iconic songs.
True.
Not to mention, it's just like illuminating to see this side of their personality. One of the things that's so fascinating is kind of to think about how they are aware or maybe not aware of the camera. Like I kind of feel like Paul is really trying to show like the best side of himself and that he's the leader, and then John's trying to make fun of the whole thing, and Ringo just doesn't care because he's Ringo and he just keeps doing his thing. Yeah, it's a very very interesting documentary that only invites diving further into the material and pulling it apart. I liked it a lot. I've ran it back already, even though it is very long. It's a show that or it's documentary, I guess, that I'm looking forward to just kind of having on in the background, the way that I've done with some episodes of The Last Dance, because it's also cool to just kind of be in that mood and be among those people.
Agreed.
I liked it a lot. So the Beatles get back at number 3.
Oh,
Nice.
wow.
Right, let's get into our top 2s. Art, start us off.
I'm wondering if y'all have it. Succession Season 3.
I have this one at number 1.
Same.
And I have The Underground Railroad as my number 1. So which do you want to talk about first?
So, why don't you talk about the Underground Railroad?
Okay. I think that Barry Jenkins went in, did everything that he was supposed to do. I have not finished reading the book, but I immediately went out and bought the book in order to really read it and compare it to the story that you're seeing. I really love the aspect of being able to have it on a streaming service, so some episodes can be way shorter than others, and thus you're following it from whatever perspective, or specifically, I think they were naming it off of whatever stop they were, whatever state they were. I think it has 2 of the best performances of the year. I don't think it got enough recognition, even from its own streaming service. And I think it was, again, I am one who, as much as I want to scold a streaming service for not pushing something, it's there. It is hosted. It is streamable in 4K. And I think it is some of the best stuff that Barry Jenkins has filmed. You could see his heart in it all the way. I think it is essential viewing, in my opinion. I don't think that it is going to be something that you're going to put on a Saturday night, but I think it's something that everyone should watch because it gets into the intricacies of that time period, even with its fantastical element, because obviously there is no underground railroad. That is just a narrative device that is used within the story. And I definitely think people should have it on the radar. And it's my favorite of the year.
It is a incredible piece of media. I mentioned with It's a Sin how it's really heavy material, but it's made a little bit lighter. I don't know if I would say the same thing for the Underground Railroad. Like it's heavy, and it is all like a large portion of it is heavy, but there is like this painterly quality to the way that Barry is assembling these scenes. They are just so gorgeous, and the way that they'll linger on certain faces is so it just brings you into the emotion. So evocative. I think a lot of times with historical dramas, there's a distance because we don't know what it was like to live in that time period. We don't know what it was like to wear that style of clothes. But because of the way that I think you can read an actor's face, the way he'll center them on the camera and really let you look into their eyes, you do feel all that emotion. You do feel very present and there, despite being so distant from that time and that experience. It's an amazing piece of work, and it almost feels wrong to put it on a ranked list because it's just this.
It's beyond that,
this unreal piece of work.
It's one that I'll be revisiting in the future, for sure.
Yeah.
Still haven't finished it, so not in like a disrespectful way, but
it's
it's
tough at
heavy.
times.
It's really heavy, so I kind of have to I just haven't.
That's the other thing
Yeah.
too, the fact that they just dumped it as a binge when this is literally something that would have progressed a lot more. And it's not like Prime isn't doing that for other series. This one definitely would have serviced itself better in a weekly model where people would have had discussions, since that's kind of the point of the show. So that'd be my biggest gripe with Prime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think they were really relying on the awards bodies to kind of do their job marketing it.
That's not how
for
that
them.
works, but yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And now it's kind of feels like it's been overlooked a bit. Okay, so let's get to Amanda's number 2.
It's
A big turn, I'm
it's a
assuming?
big turn. It is theoretically a look at trauma, but not real trauma. So I will not ever compare it to Underground Railroad. It's WandaVision.
Oh my gosh, bro. My AirPod fell out.
I don't even know. This top 10 list, I don't even know if this is the order these should be going in. I'm just, we're vibing. I'm like, I know I really loved WandaVision, but it's been so long now that I'm just like, it's here. Look, it has its problems. I thought it was a really interesting flip for the MCU that they were willing to like at least mostly commit to this like quirky fucking idea of like going through different eras and like waiting at least until the end before there was people flying through the skies. And yeah, I will say that when people start flying through the skies, it loses a little bit of steam, but then it pulls it all back around. Like just the moment where like everything's fading away from this like reality she's created in her like pain and misery and just like a trauma response, literally. And then, you think she's kind of comes through the other end, and then you get your post-credit scene where she's like, but actually, I might be able to fix this. I don't know. I had a really good time with WandaVision. I really didn't expect myself to like the shows much at all. And as of right now, like between WandaVision and Hawkeye, I've enjoyed those two shows more than like any of the movies that came out this year for Marvel. So I don't know. It's not perfect, but I had a really good time with it. It was one of those ones that I could get a lot of like emotional resonance from when I was talking about it again for my own video. So yeah, it's number 2. We're going for it.
I'm curious that what you mentioned at the end there, that you feel like you enjoyed their TV shows more than their movies. Do you feel like there's a momentum shift in the MCU and maybe they're putting almost too much focus, or it kind of feels like maybe it's a little temporary thing while they reset some deck chairs?
I'm sure it's just like I didn't fucks with Eternals. Eternals is the only one that it goes the other way. I'm like, that needed to be a television show. I don't give a shit about any of these people except for like 2 of them. And it's, Shang-Chi was actually really good. I actually did really enjoy that way more than I thought I was going to. Yeah, that had a good buddy vibe with Awkwafina.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite Marvel movie.
It was. I think so too.
It,
like
right?
Spider-Man has its moment. Yeah, like Spider-Man has its moments, but again, it's like this is fan service just to get this version of Spider-Man to a base point that they want to work off of right now, I guess.
If
some of it
Aunt May
almost feels like it's just getting so big. Just a couple different things.
If Aunt May would have said, "What is grief but love persevering?" then Amanda would have given it a 10 out of 10.
I would have been like, yeah, exactly, 10 out of 10.
But responsibilities.
No, yeah. Just fuck the same thing again, man. Fuck. And like Spider-Man's not bad. It's just kind of like, I don't know. It's just one of those ones that the more people are like, this is a 10 out of 10 movie, I'm just kind of like, you're all insane. But it's so I don't know. I guess the shows kind of give you a little bit more of a lived-in feel, because even Loki, when it gets to the end, and I'm like, this is just now existential dread. I don't want to deal with this. So I don't know. There's something about Wanda in Hawkeye. Yeah.
That's the other thing that I wanted to ask you about. I was actually a little surprised to not see Loki on your list. I feel like that might be that or WandaVision is the number 1 choice for the MCU this year.
WandaVision has the most stands, like the most vocal stands, and then I think Loki
They're rooting
seems
for
to be
the
the favorite
characters.
for like and I get that. Fuck, so good. I don't know. Loki is really good up until I don't know. It's just it gets to the end, and I'm just kind of like, oh god, I don't know how I feel anymore. I don't like this. I don't know. And then like Hawkeye's like the opposite. Is kind of like you could just erase this and it probably wouldn't ever matter in the grand scheme of the MCU, and I like that. And I like looks at trauma in fictional characters, so WandaVision's right up my alley. So that's me.
Yeah. I as I mentioned, haven't had a chance to watch all the MCU shows this year, but I think Art has. Of the 4, which is your favorite?
Hawkeye?
Not including What If. It would be Hawkeye. Yeah.
Hawkeye?
WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, or Hawkeye.
Hawkeye? Falcon?
Okay.
The Kang scene in Loki?
Yeah.
And then WandaVision. I don't hate WandaVision.
No, that's fair.
Man, even that Doctor Strange trailer.
Mine is MODOK.
Oh, mine is MODOK, yeah, for sure. No, I kind of have Loki and WandaVision in the same thing. I think that Loki has a better moment, whereas WandaVision, I think, is more, I guess if you want to call it consistent. Whatever problems I have with WandaVision, I mean, we'll see how they answer it in the Multiverse of Madness. I think she gets a slap on the wrist. I think Shang-Chi's dad did the same thing, and he gone.
Fine.
But, yeah.
It's fine.
All right, my number 2 is the show that maybe brought me the most joy in 2021. It is I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson.
Fair.
I just think it is all so funny and so uniquely him in this like stubborn kind of comedy that these characters take on. Like I think it was once described. I think it was once described as the humor of refusing to admit you're wrong, and it just cracks me up again and again. It's just easily the funniest sketch comedy that I've seen in years. So I Think You Should Leave is my choice for number 2.
Hell yeah.
But then we get to the honorable mentions.
Ooh.
Art, I know you said you didn't have too many this year. Art, what are the movies, or excuse me, the shows that just missed out?
Reservation Dogs over on Hulu, produced by Taika Waititi.
Taika.
You know, just to get 2 of his shows mentioned on this list. I think it's a really good cast of characters. Just this young group of kids who are trying to save enough money to hit the road and get out of there, but they realize not only that it's a lot more difficult, but they end up connecting a lot to their roots there and their indigenous ancestors that live there in some of the trippiest ways possible. May take a while to get into it, but yeah, it's I don't know. I really fell in love with the characters, love their lingo, love the way that they interact with each other, and I'm curious to see them in more projects as well.
I really liked the layer of melancholy that they layered in throughout the season. That these are all kids who are experiencing different forms of trauma too, but it's funny.
Exactly. That's the only way. All you can do is laugh at it. Some of the other ones that we had, I know we had mentioned Yellowjackets. I'm gonna add it, since it is a TV special. It is how it's pitched for the Emmys. Bo Burnham's Inside. I really did enjoy it. It was in my halfway of the list.
Yeah.
I know that he's had a whole push with it, and I also just want to mention that because I did not get to put Zack Stone is going to be famous, and that is now on Netflix for people to actually stream. And if you haven't, do so. It is incredible. Bo Burnham's best.
Yeah, I don't know how to classify Bo Burnham's Inside, but whatever list it's eligible for, it's probably near the top, if not number 1.
Well, Hamilton beat it because Hamilton is a recorded TV special, Zach. Neither here nor there. Can't Get You Out of My Head, the documentary series that I had halfway through my list. I'm still missing episode 5
Curtis.
because, they deleted that off YouTube. So now I got to find a way to get the VPN on BBC. But crazy series. I don't know how else to describe it other than it's like it unravels itself in the craziest way possible by connecting some random event that happened, centuries ago to something that's currently happening in a manufacturing factory. But definitely put that on your radar if you're interested in something crazy.
It's like dizzying in the connections it makes, but it's clearly done by somebody who has like spent a lot of time thinking these through.
And to a certain point, they're not even trying to connect the dots for you. They're trying to connect like the emotions of it. It's like, do you see the waves of history repeating itself? One that I had on my halfway list, Physical. This again between Insecure and maybe if I would have given a rewatch to Physical, maybe in a little bit Insecure does stay in a rewatch, but Physical got booted right off. It would be my number 11. That is the Apple TV series with Rose Byrne, right? If I'm not mistaken, I'm hoping I'm getting her name right. She kills it in this show. Violet was one of our favorite movies as well from some of the festivals that came out, and this is like that, the series, and where she's thinking everything through in her head, and I thought that she killed it in her performance, and she becomes this fitness trainer with a lot more training that she needs to do mentally because that's the weakest aspect of her. But she killed this performance. I'm surprised she didn't get a lot of recognition for her role in that. But
yeah, it's another one of those shows that I kind of think just slipped through the cracks. Maybe a casualty of being on Apple TV Plus,
I guess. But very good show. Those would be my honorable mentions.
Cool. Amanda, do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah. Hellbound I thought was really good.
I did catch that, yeah.
I caught that at TIFF. So definitely kind of some people aren't liking it so much, but we're checking out if you're into kind of like Japanese or Korean television shows, kind of more like the sci-fi, not sci-fi, but like horror sci-fi, I guess. Sex Education season 3, definitely not as good as the previous 2 seasons, which is why it didn't make my top 10. I think it's kind of falling victim to like they've introduced characters that they don't necessarily know how to deal with, so it's just too wide now. They're dealing with too many characters and not letting the central cast really shine. Still very good though, very enjoyable, quick binge. Shadow and Bone, which I enjoyed way more than I thought I was going to, based off of the books of the same name. They did a really good job blending the Shadow and Bone series, which I think is not as interesting, with the Six of Crows series, which I thought was way more interesting. So it's kind of like a Six of Crows prequel, and then the first Shadow and Bone book adapted into a series. The Crows themselves are like some of my favorite characters. I like heist stuff, so they're very fun. Feel Good season 2, really quick to binge comedy show on Netflix, with somebody who's kind of like it's a Canadian living in England, dealing with a relationship, but also kind of like cycling, kind of going back into addiction and trying to get clean. Dope Sick, which is just about the actual painkiller epidemic in the world with oxycodone. It's good, very good. And Arcane, which I'm actually surprised didn't end up on the top 10, just because my top 10 is very fucking weird. But Arcane...
and very full of Haley Steinfeld.
Very unusually full of Haley Steinfeld, because I am not a Haley... I don't dislike her. I'm just not a Steinfeld stan. But Arcane's super good. Arcane kind of has a vibe in terms of like the animation style, very similar to what Spider-Verse was, or Mitchell's versus the Machines. It's just doing a lot of unique things with how it's telling its story through the animation style. This is something that's tied to the League of Legends game, but you don't need to have ever touched League of Legends to enjoy this. And they really could have just made some kind of like half-baked series for League of Legends fans, but they put a lot of care and attention into this. If anything, it goes a little bit too wide, because it is supposed to be focusing mostly on 2 character dynamics, but they're just giving you the wide view of a bunch of different characters. I thought it was like a really good, interesting look at just this society and the class warfare and different thing in there, and really, really compelling villain. So those are my honorable mentions.
Decent.
Awesome. Bunch of really good shows. The honorable mentions, I have a lot of them got mentioned. Mare of Easttown, Invincible, What We Do in the Shadows, Hacks, all really good shows. Oh, Reservation Dogs, another one of my honorable mentions. I also have Search Party season 4, a show that I am consistently awed and impressed by how they choose to reinvent themselves and find new surfaces to these deeply troubled characters. Like, everybody on this show needs so much therapy. But Alia Shawkat, I think, is giving one of the deeply underrated TV performances of the past few years with her character Dory here. I think it's coming back in the beginning of January for its 5th and final season, so definitely put that on your radar and consider catching up, because it's a very worthwhile show. I had Q Into the Storm on my midway list. I'm leaving it in the honorable mentions here just because, I maybe feel like it's a little less urgent than I felt halfway through the year, but like I can't deny the rabbit hole that show took me on, and I don't think I was as obsessed with the conclusion of any show this year as I was with that one. And Art, I'm a little surprised to hear you didn't mention Curb, season 11. Larry, funny as ever.
He is.
Just doing his thing, having fun, being rude.
He's crazy.
Can't tell him what to do. Lots of soon-to-be classic episodes on the latest season. It's just always funny. Shondas. Anyway, so those are my honorable mentions. But let's talk about the best show of 2021. Succession. Art, I know you put it at number 2, but come on. Tell me about why this show is just dominating. It's got the title belt, I think, for TV right now.
I was looking at the ratings on the final episodes. I think it goes 9.3 for the first one. And then in season 2, they had a very, very good 9.8. And I'm staring at a 9.9 for the episode titled All the Bells Say. Ooh. And it really is. I would like to just shout out the penultimate episode, because I think that one is probably one of the best personally still one of my favorite episodes, if not my favorite episode that they've ever done, because you really get into the psyche of each of the characters and where Shiv's not only talking to her mom, and you realize a lot of the backstory about how they're treated with their fathers. Also, a lot of Shiv being Shiv since she was a little kid. You get to see a lot of Roman in there and the way that he finagles his way into trying to, get the business started. Overall, I think that's just a fantastic episode. But I think what everyone was really hyping up for this one was something that we didn't see coming. And in a unrelated note, I just want to mention the best part of the season, which was a character that was never in my top 5 and just absolutely blew me away. Easily the best character this season. I could not believe it. What's a soul? What's a soul, Zach? I would 100% love to see more of him in season 4, because he quickly became not just the best one, but I think the most intriguing one. And I'm surprised that as quick as a lot of nominations are coming out, that he's not being in consideration, because that's like his performance in this season is just as good, if not better, than the ones that have won for previous characters in previous seasons. Yeah, he killed it.
Yeah, Matthew McFadden has to be nominated for an Emmy, if not win it. Like, I will not stand for anything less. Amanda, how recently have you been Succession pilled? Because I don't think we've had a chance to talk about it yet.
Like literally, like under 2 weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
What? Tell me about the experience, because I'm jealous. I want to go
How's
back.
your portfolio?
I watched it all. I just watched it all in a flurry, and you're just going through, and it's like some people are like. It's actually really funny because unrelated, I was somewhere in New York and somebody was just talking about how like they couldn't watch it because nobody's nice. And I'm like, that might be the point, ma'am, but that's okay. It's like, you don't necessarily have to find someone directly to root for. It's just fun to watch these people be like fucking terrible and constantly be like chewing themselves apart, and then occasionally getting to like look into like why different people are different ways, and like how they've become how they are. And it's a fucking whirlwind constantly, and just like great performances across the board from everybody involved, and you never really quite know where it's gonna go next. And yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. And it's just the sharpest writing on TV, too. I mean, endlessly quotable and so funny. Just like all these knives they stab into each other. It's so much fun. I think it's a show that it can be called the best comedy on TV. It could be called the best drama on TV. It gives you both, because the up and down nature of these relationships and the shifting power dynamics are so compelling. But beyond it all, it makes me laugh more than any other show. Roman's unfortunate text message.
Oh God!
Just
the look on his face.
My mouth. I don't know if my mouth has come back up.
I know. I was like, oh my
shit.
God.
It's the best episode they've ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's so good. It's been the best show for a couple seasons now, and I think it's going to continue to be. It's actually going to be very curious to see what happens next year when we get a whole bunch of other shows back, and like how they're going to fight for dominance. But it feels like Succession is just kind of the one to beat. Like it's working on every level right now. The acting is unreal. The writing is amazing. The production design of it too. That they're able to do these like globe-trotting European vistas and beautiful locales that are only available to the 0.01%. It's just such a fun show to watch, even if it is the worst people in the world.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. So those are the best TV shows of 2021. I don't know if either of you have taken a look at what 2022 has to offer in terms of TV, and if there's anything that stands out to either of you, but there's a lot of exciting stuff, a lot of stuff returning that I know we're going to all watch. Stuff like Euphoria. It'll be back in January for its second season. Atlanta finally coming back for season 3, trying to snatch that title belt from Succession. Ozark is going to wrap up with its 4th and final season. Better Call Saul is going to wrap up with its 5th or maybe 6th and final season.
Something B.
The Boys will be back for season 3. We're going to get House of the Dragon on HBO, Lord of the Rings on Amazon Prime. It's going to be a big year. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show. I'm sure there's some other Marvel shows that people are excited for. Amanda, is there a good show?
I don't know good, but I know Ms. Marvel's on the way, and
we'll see.
Moon Knight with the boys from
Moon
the
Knight,
Endless.
yeah, Moon Knight.
Yo,
Moon Knight. Hopefully
Ethan Hawke flipping
fuck that up.
Oh.
Yeah. Is there any show from that group that stands out to you as the show you cannot wait to come back, Amanda?
Euphoria. I'm really ready to see where they go with Euphoria. Damn. The Boys season 3. Very excited for The Boys season 3. Yeah.
How about you, Art?
Out of all of those, easily Euphoria, but I'd also want to toss Marvelous Mrs. Maisel that we're supposed to be getting back as well.
Nice.
Yeah. I believe Killing Eve. I don't know if you mentioned that. I know it's a big one that people are excited for
season
its return.
4.
But
I thought it was done.
I mean it's gonna be stacked, dude.
Cool.
We're finally getting that Halo show on Paramount Plus. We're getting Gaslit with Julia Roberts and Sean Penn from Sam Esmail on Paramount
Wait,
Plus.
what? What was it? Run that one back.
Based on the Slow Burn podcast.
Who and where?
Julia Roberts, Sean Penn. I think Sam Esmail is either producing or directing, but I think he's directing.
Don't mess with me like that. That's a big difference. Pam and Tommy, which we've been seeing so many leaks of.
Yeah, Pam and Tommy. And then the show that I can't believe I didn't mention it already, Barry is coming back. So a lot of exciting stuff on the horizon for TV in 2022. But I think that just about does it for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd @ZShevich. Amanda, where can people find more from you?
You can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch occasionally, Instagram, and a lot of other places, all at Amanda the Jedi.
Art, how about
you? Find me over at Elmi Explain on Twitter, on the Letterboxd, on the YouTube, and every week here on the Intercut podcast.
You can catch every episode of the Intercut podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever your favorite podcatcher is. I like Overcast. And then make sure you subscribe not just to the audio feed, but to the video feed as well at youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can catch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Monday. And please leave us a comment. Shout us out, like the video, do all those things. Consider heading over to iTunes to give us that much requested 5-star review. And shout out to our listeners in Poland and the Netherlands for putting us on the TV and film podcast charts out there. Is Netherlands like Ukraine in that you're not supposed to say like the Ukraine and you're not supposed to say the Netherlands, or can I say the Netherlands? I don't really know. Correct me in the comments down below.
Leave a 5-star review and ask.
Leave a 5-star review and let me know the proper way to talk about the Netherlands. Maybe I should be saying Holland. Maybe it's one of those weird ones that has multiple names too. Sorry, I didn't mean to call the entire country of Holland weird. I'm just trying to figure out the names. You gotta get to the bottom of it. I'm not trying to use the wrong nomenclature. Like our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. Support our Patreon. All of them are at Intercut Pod to get updates throughout the week from Art, from me, from Amanda, from everybody that we feature here on Intercut. And also join us on the Discord, which you can find a link to in the description down below. Thanks again for tuning in. And until next time, what am I going to do with a soul anyway? Souls are boring. I might have used that one on a live stream, but it's so good I don't
have to use it again.